question is, how far in purity issues, how far is too far? This one happens all the time. This particular question is one that I think every person who's been unmarried at some point in their life has asked this question and wants to know the answer to it. So, let me say this. The question is flawed. And I'm going to answer it, but let me say this. The question is flawed. To say how far is too far is asking how close to the wrong thing can I get without actually getting in trouble for it. And when you're asking that particular question, then your heart's already in the wrong place. Not that if you ask that question, your heart's in the wrong place, because we all ask that question, but understand something. To say, hey, God, how close can I get to completely destroying my life without actually doing so? Like, if the building's on fire and I'm covered in gasoline, which in theory, being a teenager or a young adult who's unmarried is like being covered in sexual gasoline. You are just one spark away from being completely engrossed in flames, okay? So there's a burning building here and you're covered in gasoline, and what you're asking is, how close can I inch to that burning building before I will catch fire? And probably what God's saying is, why are you asking that? Run from the building, you know? Please, get away from the building. That would be the most I would be saying, what we should be saying is, God, how far away from the building can I get, you know, so that I ensure I don't catch on fire? Now, that makes sense in a sermon type way, and we all go, yes, we stroke our goatees, and that was a great answer. But in reality, you're in a place where you're curious, you're in a place where you're tempted, you're in a place where you want to get married, you're in a place where you are sexual. Let me just say this, guys, you're sexual, okay? And being sexual is not a sin. You were created to be sexual, and that is okay. Now, here's the deal. This is an issue of timing, and this is an issue of who you're going to serve. Because this thing can overtake you and will overtake you and does overtake you. And I understand that from experience as well as from many experiences with many other people who struggle with this over the years. To say that, hey, this thing is bigger than you are. And that's why to ask the question, how far is too far, brings us to some practicals. Because I can tell you not to lust in your heart. That's what the Bible says. Some of you probably have lusted in your heart since you walked in the door and you haven't seen anything pornographic. You haven't made out with somebody. You just sat in a chair in your church listening to your boring youth pastor, and you still found a way to lust in your heart for someone across the room or someone who doesn't even exist. I mean, lust is a hard thing to evaluate. Yes, fight it, but understand it's fighting you. This is a tough battle. And so, yes, we go there. But practically, let me tell you this. The things that you do that are not all the way are still sexual. We just define that being sexual doesn't mean that it's sinful. But when you begin to engage in sexual activity, that's when you begin to cross those lines. I would say this, practically. How far is too far? Well, what would I be embarrassed if my mom, dad, or youth pastor found out that I was doing? I would ask that question. Because for the most part, if your parents found out that you kissed someone, you're probably not going to freak out and think they're going to beat you with a whip or something. You know? You're going to feel like that was acceptable. Some cultures, you'd be stoned. So understand we are speaking culturally here. And understand that kissing is a big deal. And it does lead to other things. You kiss for 8, 9 hours in a row. There's going to be other things that you either desire to happen and will happen eventually. It is progressive by God's creative design. These things are designed to progress. So don't be surprised when they progress. That's the biggest thing. People come all the time and they say, hey, John, you know, we got in trouble and I can't figure out why. Well, where were you? Well, we were in the bedroom. Well, were the lights on? No. Was anybody home? No. How long you been dating? Like 8 months. And how much are you like making out and stuff every day, like 25 minutes at a time? So you were in a bedroom alone. Of course something happened. That's what's supposed to happen. That's the way you're created. So we can stop being so mysterious about it. That's why you have to make some practical choices. 2, what things in your life, and this is why I was just to prove the point that not going all the way is still a big deal. When you're married, all those things are still a big deal. And if you did any of those things but didn't go all the way with someone else when you were married, your spouse would think that was cheating. Would they not? Go just make out with somebody else when you're married and then try to tell your spouse, no, we didn't go all the way. It's no big deal. It wasn't sexual. We just made out. you're still going to have a divorce on your hands because it is a big deal, right? If you get on the phone with them and have sexual conversation, that is going to be a big deal. So understand what I'm saying. Those things are a big deal. Now, are they sinful? Like I said, man, sin is a matter of the heart. Well, here's what's practical. Don't put yourself in situations that you cannot handle, and do not trust yourself with these things. The Bible says in Timothy to flee from these things. Run. Sometimes it says fight. When he gets to this stuff, he says run. Run away. Run away fast. Understand that you are not made as an unmarried person to endure the kind of temptation you're putting yourself under when you put yourself in the wrong situation. We know the practicals of other things we've talked about before, but 2, don't be alone for extended amounts of time. Don't be alone in a place that's going to be alone in public. If you're going to go on a date in public. You will get in trouble if you're alone for extended amounts of time by yourself. Do not lay down ever. Just don't do it. How far is too far? Well, you're not going to find out if you don't lay down for the most part. In general, don't lay down. Don't cuddle up on the couch to take a nap. One of you, at least, probably both, is not thinking about a movie or a nap. Okay? Unless you're superhuman. Most of us, especially unmarried people, that's innocent and sweet and all, and innocent and sweet leads to other things, okay? So you may say, but we did that and it was fine and we didn't make any mistakes. This time, all you're doing is, you got like dominoes. You just knocked over another domino. It's a matter of time. I was the Christian kid that thought it was okay to knock over dominoes and thought I'd be fine. And I did not realize I was using up my strength that I needed later. I did not get it. You don't have to do what I did. I'm telling you because I did the wrong thing. I can tell you how to help yourself with this. Girls, don't sit in his lap. You don't have to be a major in anatomy to understand this process. Okay? That's not going to help anybody. It's not ever innocent. It's not good. Okay? Those are practicals that keep you out of trouble. Are those issues of sin? Your heart's where that is. But practically you don't have to go all the way to be in trouble. And you can get closer to all the way than you want to go by things that you think are all innocent. But those innocent little dominoes, when stacked beside each other and they all start falling, become quickly something you don't want them to be. Good question.